Mellow greetings, everybody. My name is James. I am from the internet, and today we are going to be talking about Joe Biden's first 100 days in the White House. Now, I am not a huge fan of this being a metric that we use to determine whether a president is or is not going to be successful. This is somewhere in line with trying to look at the NFL draft and then decide who had the best draft, even though nobody's played a down in the NFL yet. Like, Joe's still getting his bearings. Joe's still trying to see what's left in the cupboards since fucking Tornado Trump blew through the White House and just ripped everything out with it. He kind of had his work cut out for him on this one. Even I, who am not the biggest Biden supporter, will acknowledge that this is a fact. So, what I want to do is I want to take a look at 4 different things here real quick. Number 1, what does the overall general public think about how Joe Biden is doing in his first 100 days comparative to, the last guy? Number 2, I want to show you some raw numbers so you as individual viewers can make your own determination as to whether or not you think Biden is doing his thing or he's not. And then I want to show you how the left and the right in cable news are framing Biden's first 100 days so that you'll have a better idea of who is saying what and why when you get deluged with this story for the next couple of days. All right, here we go. First up, the overall general public. Biden fares better than Trump over his first 100 days in Reuters Ipsos poll. More than half of Americans approve of President Joe Biden after nearly 100 days on the job, a level of support that his Republican predecessor, Donald Trump, never achieved, and one that should help the Democrats push for infrastructure spending and other big-ticket items on the Biden agenda. The National Opinion Poll found that 55% approved of Biden's performance in office, while 40% disapproved, and the rest were not sure. Biden received the highest marks for his handling of the coronavirus pandemic, with 65% supporting his response. In January, 38% approved of Trump's handling of the health crisis. 90% of Democrats, 61% of independents, and 39% of Republicans said they approved of Biden's response. Now, to be fair here, and what's a metric that you can probably apply throughout the telling of this tale, is going to be that the bar that Biden had to meet was extremely low. Donald Trump was literally a petulant 7-year-old child with not a clue of how politics, economics, or governance works. Yet, we gave him the keys to the office, and he just kind of ran amok. Every once in a while, there were a few adults there who'd, hold him by the hand and walk him through some dangerous places. But ultimately, we've been led by a small, incompetent child for the last 4 years, and frankly, it shows. So really, all Biden had to do was show up, shut up, and be reasonably competent, and he would be doing better than Donald Trump did. And that is playing out in these national polling numbers. 52% of Americans also said they like Biden's handling of the economy, and 53% said the same about his impact on U.S. jobs, which in both cases were a few percentage points higher than Trump's mark on jobs and the economy during his final month in office. But Biden received his strongest criticism on immigration as his administration continues to grapple with a surge of migrants arriving at the U.S.-Mexico border. 42% approved of the president's border policy, while 49% disapproved. Now again, neither of those numbers should surprise you. Biden managed to get some checks out to some people, and when people get checks, they think that the economy is doing much better and they can breathe a sigh of relief. Don't worry, it was only one check. That sigh of relief is going away very quickly. However, it did help him with the polling numbers. And yes, job numbers are starting to pink up, and that is because of his response to the coronavirus pandemic and the fact that he has been getting so many people vaccinated that businesses and small jobs are starting to reopen or starting to open bigger because certain cities and states are now loosening restrictions due to the amount of people that have been vaccinated. Americans were also generally supportive of Biden's stance on the environment and racial inequality, with 54% and 51% approving of his record so far, respectively. Wow, imagine that. In the first 100 days in office, he didn't call Mexicans drug dealers and rapists, And he didn't try to ban Muslims from flying into the country. Again, just those two things get him points higher because the bar is low. So let me show you what the actual benchmark numbers look like so you as individual viewers and voters can decide for yourself if Biden is punching above his weight or hitting below average. Biden's first 100 days, a look by the numbers. First stat, bills signed into law, 11. The 11 bills he signed into law are among the fewest for any newly elected president dating back to FDR. At the same time, if there's one piece of legislation that Biden's first 100 days will be remembered for, it will be the $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package that he signed back in March. And here's a quick comparative of all the other presidents. As you can see, Donald Trump signed 28 bills into law in his first 100 days. But again, to be fair, Donald Trump is a small child. And if you put a piece of paper in front of a child and you give him a pen and you go, Donald, do you want to write your name? And he'll go, ah! That's kind of what happened. So let's not make it sound like just because Donald Trump signed a whole bunch of laws that it was a good thing. Number of executive orders, 42. While Biden may be lagging his predecessors on the number of bills he has signed, he is far outpacing them on executive orders. Biden has issued 42 to date, and more than any president going back to Harry Truman. He may have campaigned on bringing bipartisanship back to Washington, but much of his early focus at least has been on policies he can implement on his own, such as measures to revoke the permit for the Keystone XL pipeline, requiring masks on federal property, and continuing a ban on evictions amid the coronavirus pandemic. And again, here's a comparative of all the other presidents in the last 40 years or so. As you can see, Biden outpacing everybody with Trump a close second. Now again, to be fair with numbers, the devil is in the details and what kind of context is involved. Biden has to, A, write executive orders to cancel out bad executive orders that Trump signed in the first place. Plus, he has to sign a whole bunch of executive orders strictly related to the pandemic. In fact, Biden has now reversed a total of 62 of Trump's orders to date. He's recommitted the U.S. to the Paris Climate Agreement, he's halted the U.S. exit from the World Health Organization, and paused construction of the border wall. It's not exactly shocking that a new Democratic president is undoing the policies of his Republican predecessor. It's what Biden campaigned on after all. What's notable is the pace at which Biden is working. Through April 23rd, he had undone 62 out of 219 orders signed by former President Donald Trump, according to the American Presidency Project. Unemployment currently sitting at 6%. U.S. employers have added more than 1.2 million jobs since Inauguration Day, and while that's certainly welcome news inside the White House, nearly 10 million Americans are still out of work, and the jobless rate is still stuck about 2.5 points higher than it was before the pandemic. And no, I don't want any of you giving me shit in the comment section about that horrible unemployment 6% statistic when I'm the one who literally put that video out last year explaining to you all the difference between U4, U5, and U6 unemployment rates. Yes, I know the unemployment rate is actually much, much higher. But again, we're trying to give an equal comparative. We're comparing apples to apples. COVID-19 cases down 73%. Biden has made confronting the coronavirus his administration's top priority, but no president in modern history has taken office amid a global health crisis on the scale of what he inherited on January 20th. Under Biden, new daily cases have dropped from an average of more than 199,000 a week to about 54,000 a week. To Biden's credit, they recognized they had to get as many people as possible vaccinated before the summer hit because there was no way that hundreds of millions of people were just going to voluntarily stay locked down for another year. And again, a lot of this problem is due to the fact that Trump didn't do jack shit, so the bar was low. So yeah, Joe Biden, thank you for actually doing something about this. I appreciate it. Judicial nominations, 11. Biden has only made 11 nominations to the federal bench and has a long way to go if he hopes to match the more than 220 judges who won confirmation as part of a historic overhaul of the judiciary under Donald Trump. Biden's staff says filling judicial vacancies is a top priority, but his window may be a narrow one. If Republicans win back the Senate in next year's midterm elections, Biden will in all likelihood face the same roadblocks that kept Obama from filling more seats. There are currently 77 vacancies for Biden to fill, plus another 27 judges who've announced they will step down or take senior status in the next few months. Appointing judges is literally what Trump and McConnell did. It's the one place where they came together, and frankly, this is the one that is going to make it very difficult to pass and then keep legislation passed at state and federal levels regarding a whole slew and wide gamut of different subjects. This one is going to come back to bite Democrats in the ass. So if Biden has 77 vacancies plus another 27 retiring, we all better hope to hell that he gets all 100 or so of those seats filled in the next year, or else the courts are going to be leaning very right for the better part of the next 2 to 3 generations. Last but not least, the number of tweets. Biden has tweeted 589 times since taking office. As a candidate, Biden said the U.S. needed a president who would lower the temperature in Washington. On Twitter, at least, he appears to be doing just that. Since taking office, Biden's POTUS account is averaging about 6 tweets per day. Compare that with Trump, who by one count spent more than 9 full days of his presidency on Twitter. Until Trump's account was permanently suspended in January, Trump tweeted more than 26,000 times as president, or roughly 18 times a day. And now, let's take a quick look at what the left and the right are saying about the first 100 days of the Biden presidency in the media. Over here on left-leaning CNBC, the head takeaway is that Biden's 100-day stock market performance is the hottest going back to the 1950s. Now, if you're asking yourself why I pulled an article from CNBC, which is the financial news reporting of NBC, to determine how the left media is currently discussing these first 100 days, it's because I couldn't find jack squat that was good. There are a bunch of publications that have listicles and timelines and a couple of, opinion pieces written by people who normally don't work at those outlets. But by and large, if you go look at Biden first 100 days and you Google it, most of the stuff you find from left-leaning organizations are really just timeline stuff. It's almost as if people on the left don't want to do the deep dive about how Biden's actually doing because they eventually have to come up against the immigration numbers. So far in his young presidency, Joe Biden has been one of the best friends the stock market's ever had. Better, in fact, than any president before him, going back to at least the 1950s and the Dwight Eisenhower administration, as the 46th chief executive has witnessed an unprecedented growth on Wall Street in his first 100 days in office, as measured from the time of his election. As you can see, that Biden number and that bar is a hell of a lot bigger than anybody else's. Why? Because Joe Biden and capitalists get along great together. Whoa, Biden's first 100 days have already delivered the strongest post-election equity returns in at least 75 years due to record fiscal stimulus and despite heavy use of executive orders. Indeed, Biden's results have been staggering so far. The S&P 500 has risen 24.1% since Election Day, with numbers that easily trounce any of his predecessors. And so if that is the best that the left has to focus on, now let me show you what the worst the right has to focus on. Oh, that's right, it's our old friend, I do declare, Lindsey Graham. So good to see you again. Senator Graham, how are you, sir? It would appear that Lindsey is not impressed by the current president. Let's see what he had to say. Senator Lindsey Graham told Fox News Sunday that he is not very impressed with Biden's first 100 days in office. Quote, during the campaign, he made us all believe Joe Biden would be the moderate choice. Lord knows I enjoy a good moderate because sometimes it gets hot and I get to vapor something fierce. So I like when it's mellow and moderate. But that didn't happen. All that court packing was a bonehead idea there, Joe Biden. All of a sudden we have a commission to change the structure of the Supreme Court? Good Lord, say it isn't so. Making D.C. a state? I think that's a very radical idea. And you know those radical ideas get me all hot and bothered. Yeah, this is what he fucking had to say. This is absolutely freaking ludicrous. AOC said his first 100 days exceeded her expectations. That's all you need to know. Yes, AOC said what a lot of people on the left were saying. Holy crap, Biden actually got stuff done? Quote, he's been a disaster on foreign policy. The border's in chaos. The Iranians are off the map. He's opening up negotiations with the Iranian regime. Good Lord. And they haven't done a damn thing to change. Afghanistan's going to fall apart. Russia and China are already pushing him around. I am so very worried. Oh, I feel I've got the vapors again. I might need to sit down a moment and collect myself. By the way, this is the point of the show where I point out that the Republicans shit on anything that is done in the Middle East that doesn't involve giving Israel $7 billion a year and giving Saudi Arabia $1 billion a year in weapons so that they can keep genociding Yemen. Graham's comments come as 46% of voters say U.S. border security is worse than it was 2 years ago, compared with the 15% who say it's better, according to the latest Fox News survey. Hey, can I show y'all a neat math and journalism trick while we're here? If you have a Fox News survey, it means Fox News viewers are the one taking that survey. If 46% say that the border is worse and 15% say that it's better, well, that means roughly 40% say it's the same. Fox didn't want to write that because if 46% of Fox viewers say that border security is worse and 40% say it's roughly the same, well, that means there's a whole lot of people out there who really don't think there's much difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump on the right as it relates to border security. And that's not good for all the fear-mongering they're planning on doing in the 2022 midterms. Yeah, just thought I'd point this one out for you. 100 days down, about 1,200 left to go. Buckle up, kids. Shit's gonna get bumpy. Until next time, my name is James. I'm from the internet and I am out. Peace.